Hey, everybody. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to another great episode of the Suzette Speak Show. You know, I like to start at 3:05 because I represent for the MIA, and I'm so glad there are so many of you already in the chat commenting and watching. For those of you who are brand new to the channel, you know I want to show you some love because this channel has been exploding over the last month, and I cannot say I had the vision for it. I feel very blessed to have so many new subscribers. So I want to start by welcoming all my new subscribers. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed as yet. But we have a very, very, what should I say? Heartfelt topic that we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to warn you, it's going to be very transparent, very graphic. So if you have experienced any type of trauma when it comes to sexual abuse, this show will go into detail today with my special guest. So as you guys know, or may not know, let me reintroduce myself for those who are just watching for the first time. My name is Suzette Speaks. I'm a TV host and attorney here in the MIA. I have a channel now that is probably like 5 weeks strong, if that, where I'm interviewing a myriad of guests. And my channel, I really like to focus on interpersonal issues that all of us have, whether it's dealing with past trauma, whether it's dealing with friendships like my last stream, or things that we don't necessarily understand why they affect us, but do have some residue in our spirits and in our souls. So I like to get to the bottom of those things, and I like to uncover them and hopefully give you some solutions for how you can better not only cope, but manage and move forward. That's the goal of the channel. So if you're watching, go ahead and drop a comment. Let me know where you're watching from. My guest is joining me from Ohio today. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. And she has a harrowing story, guys. I was getting to know her in our prep call, and she assured me, she said, Sue, there's nothing that's going to be off limits and out of bounds here. She has a story to tell, is all I can tell you. So I don't want to ruin it, but I want to welcome you first and foremost. So first things first, y'all know what y'all need to do. Hit that like and hit that subscribe button. It's important. You know how the algorithm works. You know that we need more likes so that we can get more people seeing the video. So go ahead and hit that like button. I want to welcome you again. If you guys are just tuning in for the first time, this is the Suzette Speaks Show. If you're here by way of TLA, the lead attorney, you know that's my homie, the big bro. He gave me a crash course on how to get introduced and getting acclimatized to the YouTube sphere. So it's been a wonderful ride so far, and I hope you guys have been enjoying the content. Matter of fact, drop a comment. Let me know if you've been enjoying the content. We have some great speakers all throughout the month of November, y'all. I'm really excited to hear what these ladies have to say. All of them are dynamic in their own right. Some of them have some advice to give. Some of them have a story to tell. Most importantly, I hope you will relate to them and get some knowledge and hopefully have some kind of epiphany or aha, like I've even had on my own streams for myself, so that you could, again, be empowered to move forward. That's really what the core goal and intention of this show is about. So again, hit that like button. I want to introduce her, and actually I'll probably have her introduce herself in just a moment, but I want to welcome all of you. I see you guys in the comments. What's up? Welcome, Sunbreeze. I love it. Go ahead and drop me a comment. Y'all let me know where you are watching from. Turn on your super. I got a super chat. How do I do that? Doug, can you believe I'm being monetized like in record time? Can you believe this? I'm going to figure that out. I should have actually looked at that before I started. This is news to me. We're going to try to make the best of it, Doug. Thank you, Doug, from Virginia. Hey, Rose, welcome. I'll be back. TLA still on. See, this is what happens when we have some big guys on this platform doing their thing. Us little YouTubers got to still do what we came to do. So I can understand that TLA, with his marathon broadcasts, is still talking about, I think he's talking about Travis Scott today. So yeah, want to make sure you guys know this show is for you, by you. So I want to welcome you from the Bay Area in the building. What's up, Kim? Nice to have you. Welcome. Thank you. I'm listening. I'm glad to see you. Modesto, California. Wow. Thanks for watching. Watching from Great Britain. Yay. Okay, GB in the building. We taking it international, y'all. I'm so grateful to have all of you in the chat. Queen Regina, how you doing? Welcome, sis. I'm so grateful. Again, I want to preface that this show will deal with some sensitive topics when it comes to childhood sexual trauma, So if this is a subject matter that could be triggering for you, I want to give you fair warning because I want to make sure there are, there's adequate preparation. Sometimes we got to prepare our spirit sometimes when we hear such difficult topics, but we're going to also hear a story of overcoming though. So I don't want you guys to just get stuck in that. I think it's important that we talk about it as parents, as caregivers, as aunts, uncles, loved ones. In our society, sometimes we, particularly in the communities of color, don't pay attention as much or keep a lot of secrets in and around sex abuse. So we've got to peel back the cover. We got to open up that curtain and let people in so that we are not complicit, knowingly or unknowingly, when this rears its ugly head. So sometimes this can be a difficult conversation. This can be a conversation where, we get uncomfortable and we don't like to think about things like this. But of course, we're doing it for educational purposes. And we also want to make sure, those of us who have children around us that we love, people that we love, that we're holding them accountable. That's the most important thing. So I want y'all to get ready for this. It's going to be a deep conversation, y'all. Please get ready. How are you? Doug says, even though you got my first name wrong, I still love you, Doug. Thank you. Suzette speaks. I'm not a content creator, but I'm sure TLA will assist you with turning on your super chat. Yes, you should have enough watch time. Hallelujah. Can you believe it? This has been a marathon, y'all. Listen, I don't know, Rose. This is what he's saying to turn on, but I'm supposed to be able to do that. But let me look real quick before I keep going. Let's see what happens here. If I can do that. I don't even know. I would have to Google how to turn that on, but I don't want to digress too much. I want to be a part of like the here and the now. I don't know how to do it, y'all. If there's a way, if somebody can message me, if you want to DM me, let me know how to turn that on. I'd be happy to. I'm going to drop both my Cash App and our special guest Cash App if y'all want to support. We are appreciative of anybody who comes and wants to bless us. So we're going to throw her Cash App up a little bit more. But yes, Sunbreeze says, great topic. No, Doug, I don't take offense. He's talking about my bad. I know you didn't mean it. I know you didn't mean it, but I'm not worried about the spelling. I'm just glad you're here to partake in the community. This is a conversation, hopefully, that is going to uplift, educate, and hopefully maybe even prevent things from happening like this in the future. There are so many of us, I can just speak for myself, just blessed not to have had this type of experience. But I don't want to take for granted that there are a lot of people, when we talk about how people move through the world, they're carrying this experience with them. A lot of people have not shared that experience because of shame and, feeling marginalized and that people will judge you. So I'm so glad I have a woman here who is, we've never talked. We talked one time just to prep, but we've never really got into her story. So I'll be learning her story right along with you. But yeah, I think there are, folks who are walking in this world, both men and women, who have experienced childhood sexual abuse, childhood sexual trauma, and they don't get to speak it. They hold it inside them. You marry them and then you find out, oh, this person has been abused. Y'all come on now. I met women in college who shared their story with me quietly, didn't want me to tell. And I thought to myself, wow, to have carried this type of burden for almost your whole adult life, at that time in your 20s, it is a horrible and horrific and terrifyingly heavy burden to carry. And there's a lot of misconceptions about who is involved in abuse. Do y'all know it's most likely somebody we know? Oftentimes we think it's going to be a boogeyman or somebody who is a stranger. No, it's somebody that usually has access to your kids. Someone who is a trusted individual. That's how they gain access to your children. So we got to really be cognizant, y'all, as we get into this conversation. Again, I want to welcome you. This is the Suzette Speak Show. I see you, blind guy, his wife, their life. Welcome. We are here. Tough subject, but thank you for bringing it. I appreciate you. Thank you both. Gas's World in the building. Thank you so much. We appreciate all of you guys, and I know you guys will like, subscribe, and share. So as I was saying, we have a special guest today. I'm going to bring her in. I want you guys to show some love. I really am excited again. This channel, again, is dedicated to upliftment, empowerment, and hopefully evolution. So maybe this is not necessarily something you've experienced, but maybe it'll help you understand someone else's journey. And most importantly, maybe it will help prevent something like this from happening to other other folks in your circle. So again, you know what to do. Hit that like. I want you guys to please be respectful in the chat. You know how we do. Please, this is a very sensitive topic, so I know you'll take care of one another and be respectful of one another. And again, I love to throw up my disclaimer. Even though I'm an attorney, I will not be giving any legal advice here. This is for informational purposes only. So if you have a specific issue and a specific case, I would advise you to speak to one attorney directly offline so that you can get your case properly assessed. Okay, so all the disclaimers are out of the way. Y'all know what it is. I'm going to throw up my Cash App since I don't know how to put on super chats, even if I don't know how you know that, if you can see that, Doug. But God bless you if you want to do that. And I'll also throw up my guests. She has a wonderful story. She's on her second book. We're going to be talking about her first book today. Her first book came out about a year ago. And when I saw her, she was like, "How did you see me?" And I was like, "Girl, I think somebody shared your book release for her new book on social media, and I saw it come across my feed and it piqued my interest." So she definitely has a strong spiritual background. So I'm glad that we'll also be able to bring that into the conversation in terms of how healing takes place after something like this. But it was just so interesting to me that, there is a lot of, what should I say, hiding or protecting of even those people who are perpetrators within our community, because there are our relatives, some of them. So there's a lot of secrecy sometimes that we've got to pull back so that we don't, let this plague continue in our community. So y'all, without further ado, I have this outstanding, I'll call you a woman of God. She was like, "Just write author," but I'm gonna call you what I know already, what my spirit is saying, because I know you're here for a mission and for a purpose. So without further ado, y'all welcome my special guest for the stream today. Welcome none other than Miss Abigail Couzens. Woo, 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 woo. Welcome, sis.
Hi.
Looking fab. I see you with your poster in the back. Hey, I see you.
Okay.
Looking wonderful. I'm just grateful that you're here today, speaking on your experience. And I want people to get to know you. I want people to support you. And I hope, your story will change lives. I know it will. So once again, welcome y'all in the chat. Please welcome my guests. Hey, hey, hey. I see you guys. Salute, welcome, all that good stuff. But I'm going to allow her right now to introduce herself. Miss Abigail, the floor is yours. Welcome again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be on your platform. It is such an honor for me to be here. Everyone that's on the chat, thank you so much in advance for all of your comments, your love, and your support. I have a lot of family and friends that's going to be joining us, so thank you so much. So a little bit about me, guys. I am an author of two amazing books. One that I will heavily be speaking on today, which is My Unspoken Truth Now Told. This is the book that we will be digging into today. I'm going to be talking about surviving sexual abuse starting at the age of 7. My second book is Women in Posture, and I will explain later on how these two books tie in together. And I am the author of the upcoming book of the title. I won't release it just yet.
Okay. We got some. Got to keep something back. My mama said, "Keep something back. Let them want more." So wow. So you have a writing career, my dear. This is second book, 2 years, 2 books. That's a lot. Some people like me been waiting on getting that one book out. Okay, praise God. So what led you to start the first book for such an intimate topic? And again, those are just joining. This is going to talk about, childhood sexual trauma. So if you are triggered by that, you are warned. So what made you want to put this on paper and, more importantly, share it with the world?
Yeah, well, you know what happened? My spiritual mother is Dr. Cindy Trim. She's known and she's big all over the world. And so she had just put up, just randomly, she said, "I challenge all authors or anyone that is wanting to become an author." She said, "I challenge you to write in 6 months and to publish a book." So I was like, something in my spirit was like, "That's you." So I text her. I call her Mama Trim. I said, "Mama Trim, I'm going to take you up on that offer." She was like, which one? I said, "The one about writing and publishing a book in 6 months. I want to do it." She said, "That's wonderful, but you have 4 months." I said, "Now, wait, what?" She said, thank you for taking me up on the offer, but you have 4 months to write, 6 months to get it to the publishing team, get it published, and in 9 months, that thing has to be birthed and ready to be sold and on the market. And I was like, Lord Jesus, help me today.
Challenge.
And I was like, what story do I have to tell? What can I write in such a short amount of time that's going to be so powerful? And the Holy Spirit in no time was like, you know exactly what to write. You already have a story, and it ain't gonna take you no time to write. And when I say I literally was done writing in 4 to 5 months, it took me 4 to 5 months to put this book together.
Wow.
And I cried writing the entire book from the beginning to the end. I cried writing this entire book. And for me, that's how I knew that it was a release for me,
Yeah.
but that I also knew that it was going to be powerful and it was going to be a book that was going to be in demand.
Yeah.
Because, like you said earlier, it's a topic that we don't talk about. We just put it under the rug and we say, oh, Uncle Joe was just playing or Uncle Pete was just playing house. No, we're not playing house no more. We
Mm-hmm.
ready to speak up and to tell our story. So that
Mm-hmm.
is what I am here to do today.
I'm excited. This is the we have you. I see Grandma 11 talk about, yes, Dr. Trim is a great teacher. A good friend of mine down
Powerful.
here loves her and put me on to
Oh,
Dr. Trim. For you guys who don't know, Cindy Trim is out of the Bahamas, I believe, and a
hmm.
wonderful teacher and speaker and woman of God. And I've definitely listened to a lot of her teachings. I'm like, whoop, I gotta sit down after I listen and just sit
She's
in it and
powerful.
get what I'm supposed to get, and listen to what your spirit is telling you after. But absolutely. So you heard her speak a word, and she was like, yeah, all those authors, and you're like, woo, I'm one of them. So you
Hmm.
you responded, and I think that's a good thing. Sometimes when people hear a word, and that's a great lesson right now, sometimes we want to think it's for other people and it's not for us. So we
Mm.
ignore it and we say, oh no, that's great, good job for them. So and so should have been here to hear that. So
Right.
it's a good thing to, once your spirit is pricked, guys, it's good to be responsive. Even in this channel, this is a response for me. So I'm grateful that you heard and you said, all right, I'm going to step into, I'm not only going to have the awareness that it's me, but actually I'm going to do. So you write the book, and I want to take us into the story a little bit now, because I think obviously I want people to get the book and support, but I also, and I'll leave her Amazon links and stuff in the description, but I want people to understand, where you're coming from and
Mhm.
why something like this, I think me even writing down my thoughts in preparation for a book was so, oh my gosh, cathartic, I think is the best word for it. You get all of this out of you and you didn't
Mhm.
even know it was in you. So tell us about your life. Tell us about how you grew up, where you grew up, what your family life was like from the beginning.
Okay. From
Hmm.
the beginning,
Yeah.
I am a sibling. It's 9 of us. So I am one of 9. It is 8 girls and 1 boy. Born and raised in North Philly all
Wow.
my life.
Hmm.
Yes, born and raised in North Philly. And I'm gonna get into it when I start talking about my book. But I was in Philly, um, let's see, all the way to about the age of 21, before I moved and went to California. I did that for about 10 years. And then I went back home for about 6 months, and I'm in Ohio now because I'm married. That's how I got here. But growing up, me and my siblings were just always so tight because we felt like we just had each other. My father, who is my hero, love him to pieces. I am a daddy's girl. He was in and out of prison, um, while we were growing up. And I talk about it in my book how he was in prison at the time that I needed him the most. And I tell parents nowadays it is so important to have that relationship with your children. Men, it is so important for you to stay out of prison,
Mm,
because your children, your daughters, your sons, they need you.
mm,
And right now, I work in the prison system, um, and I am a CO. And the reason why I needed to get into the prison system was because I wanted to know why my father couldn't call me. Why couldn't I just see him whenever I wanted to? Why, when I was 7 years old, going through sexual abuse and molestation, why was my father not present? And so I always grew up wanting to know where he was at. What was he doing? So I got into the prison system, and now I know my father couldn't just call me whenever he wanted to because we turned the phones off at a certain time. My father couldn't come and see me, or I couldn't go and see him because there's a visitation process that needed to be set up. But if my mother never set those visitation up for me, I was never able to go. So I just learned so much just being in the criminal justice field, all because I wanted to know where my daddy was.
So
Um,
you may I jump in? I see some of the comments and I just want to acknowledge them. Thank you to our special guest, Miss Abigail Couzens. She is a wonderful author. I would call her a teacher. I'm sure she's a mentor, able to share testimony today. Again, we're going to be talking about sensitive subject matter. Blind Guy, his wife, their life says, her tears while writing are understood. I always wonder how people are strong enough to pen their
mm,
tough truths. I hear you. Sunbreeze say
mhm,
1 to 10. You sound like my mom's family. My mom's family is huge. She had my grandma had one. She was 20 kids, but 10 lived. So can you
mm,
imagine? So kind of
wow.
like you, tons of cousins, tons of family, all the way, all around, all the time. Excuse me. I see Andrea. Thank you. I left the leads, another streams to talk alive to you. Thank you. I was molested by 3 brothers.
Jeez.
Wow, from the age of 8 to 15. Thank you for sharing that, my sister. Wow, wow. It's more common than we like to acknowledge, guys.
Mhm,
It's far more common. It's when I got to college and started talking with different women. I thought, whoa, my brother too. He went to FSU. He would always talk about like girls sharing all kinds of young women sharing all kinds of stuff with him when he got to college about having been molested and having been violated at a very young age. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Dark Force. We see you. Patrice, how are you? I'm sure writing your book was therapy. That's how I feel too.
yeah.
And mine ain't published, but I felt the same way. I felt like, well, at least this kind of got out and it was
Yes.
released from my body, released from my spirit in a way. So growing up with that many kids, what number were you out of the 10?
Ooh, I am from my mother. I'm baby number 5.
Okay, so you have father side and a mom side. I understand
Yes,
that. So when you grew up, the household that you lived in was comprised of who?
my mother.
Okay, so your mom's home, and this was in Philly.
Yes.
Okay, so when I hear that at 7 years old, that is such a young age, and
Hmm.
this is not uncommon, guys. Was it someone that was in your immediate space that lived with you? Was it someone of
Um,
the friend of the family? How did the abuse start to occur?
hmm. He was my sister's godfather. And so he was just always around. And when my father got locked up, my mother just had him around more often.
Mm.
Um, and if you don't mind, before we really dig into it, I want to give I want to give the audience the introduction
Thank you.
to
I
the book.
forgot. Thank you. Thank you. We talked about that. She wants to read a passage that will set the tone. Go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So, to everyone that is listening right now, this is the introduction that you will read in my book, My Unspoken Truth Now Told. Here it is. That touch right there. The way your fingers run through my body, the way you penetrate slowly in and out. I scream, but it just motivates you. Tears running down my face, but you find it more fulfilling. My body so tight. I wasn't used to anything like this before, but how could I? I was only 7, but that did not stop you. 8, 9, 10. Here I am thinking, when will this stop? Damaged. I never fell in love with the idea of sex. Rather, I got comfortable with that piece of darkness. So I carried it year after year. I did not love him. It was just the energy in between my legs that brought on the chemistry. But what do I have to offer? Nothing. How old am I? I'm losing count. Wait, that's right. I'm 11 now. Where is my father. How much longer does he have in prison? I know when he comes out, he'll protect me from this mess of a life. 12, 13. Then it happened. I yelled, Daddy, home. Before I could say another word, my father looked at me and said, I know. So I stood there, frozen. I did not know what to say or if I should say anything at all. So I waited. I waited some more. Then finally, my daddy spoke in a low, sweet voice. He said, I know you've been touched, but I promise you, I'm home now. No one, and I mean no one, will ever touch you like that again. I rested my head on my daddy's shoulders and cried. All I could say was, Welcome home, Daddy. Welcome home.
Mm, 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 mm. Mm, 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 mm. I'm sorry. I'm just marinating. Sorry. That was very
Yes, ma'am.
powerful. I think there are a lot of people that are responsive to what it must have been like, what it must have felt like. Um, there's so much there. It's so chilling to hear her speak her piece. I hear you, Andrea. Thank you. Sunbreeze. Thank you. Dark Forest. Thank you. Um, there I can't even develop a question because I'm just thinking about putting myself in your shoes. I think sometimes when we hear of sexual abuse, we think that the little girl or little boy is mature, or they must have
Hmm.
been grown, or they must have been, big for their age, acting grown or whatnot. But we have to remember that there's a power dynamic at play here, guys, where there is somebody who is um, supposed to be a caretaker, supposed to be the adult,
Hmm.
supposed to be the person responsible for the safety of that child. And I
Right.
think sometimes, people get this misconceived notion that, particularly when it comes to girls, that girls want this type of attention and that there's a level of like mutuality, but there is not. There is not. There's so much pain in what I just heard you speak that I think is very important that we are reminded that there is no mutualness or mutuality. There is no, some kind of sick, I don't understand. I can't even verbalize the warped sense of doing something that the child quote wants. It's sick, and I know particularly in our cultures, cultures of color, sometimes people like to, paint this with rose-colored glasses and try to, minimize it. Oh, that was just a little touch. Oh, that was he didn't mean nothing by it. She
Right.
didn't mean nothing by it. That kind of thing. So we're not going to do that here. We're not going to minimize. Thank you for being so vulnerable. Thank you for being so open. And I think that does, in fact, set the tone for where we are going in this conversation. I want to reintroduce you. Let me just do a little reset. My special guest today is author Abigail Couzens. She has a compelling story she's going to share with us now about her journey as a little girl, starting at 7, being violated by a close family friend, godfather to her sister, and what it was like. And I want to be so respectful, and I want to not, say things that are, gonna trigger anybody here, but I know it's going to be a very intimate discussion. So I want to warn you guys. So if you want to continue, Abigail, please, can you describe how things started with this godfather of your sister, how he approached you, etc.?
Yeah. Um, so it started, and I tell it all in the book. So it started because our church was downstairs in the basement. My father was a preacher when he wasn't locked up, and we had service in the basement. And he would come down, and he would want to sit next to me. And I talk about in my book how he was just this real oversized man. And I say all the time, how was it that I am in a church full of people, but no one sees him, just always wanting to sit next to me. How was I around a group of people and no one else besides myself seen his hand always on my knee? And so that is how it started. It was, as I say in my book, his oversized hand always being placed on my baby knee. And it went from my baby knee to him sliding it up my thigh. As I got older, 8, 9, 10, um, and he was picking me up from school or dropping me off to school, it would then turn into his hand going down my pants and him with one finger doing it is what he was doing. So it escalated slowly, and I would say he had so much time to do it. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all of these years without it being stopped. I think the thing that hurted me the most was I wasn't believed. I was not believed, and that's why I have a heart um, for children that are just like really, really bad because I always want to find out the root of their energy. Well, where did this come from? Who didn't listen to you? Who's not listening to you? Because this behavior is not coming from just anywhere. You know, girls that are 13 and 14 and are fast, as we society say and put that label on them. Well, where did that come from? And I tell parents that have fast teenagers, I tell them, that came from a feeling that they experienced when they were babies, when they experienced, what was only supposed to be meant for a husband and a wife at 7, 8, 9, and 10. So it's not their fault that now at 13, 14, and 15, they want those feelings again
Absolutely.
because it's a feeling that they're craving.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so that's where it comes from.
When this first occurred, you said your mother didn't believe you. Was this something that you spoke to her immediately? I'm just trying to see what the psychology of a 7-year-old looks like. Was it something where immediately you were like, "Oh my gosh, this person picks me up"? Did he pick you up by yourself?
Yes.
So he would come and get you from school to and from school. Again, for parents listening, this is some good insight into minds of predatory people. They have access to your children, they have access to your home. So when this first happened, was it something that you kept quiet, or did you just immediately say, "Mom, this happened to me. Oh my gosh." What was that like, that first conversation?
hmm Um, when it first happened, I did let her know. Um, and it was just like, Mom, I don't want him around, is what I remember just telling her, Mom, I don't want him around. I don't want to, go to McDonald's with him, or
Hmm.
I don't need him to pick me up from school, or I
Hmm.
can walk to school. It's only 4 blocks. He touches me. And she called me a liar.
Mm. Mm-mm.
And I just think that was the turning point for me to be called a liar. I think that's when I started to develop like anger towards people. I
Hmm.
started to become mean to people because I'm like, if this is happening and you don't believe me and I'm being considered a liar, then why be this good girl? You know? Um, so it was always like a catch 22 with me because I wanted the attention of my mother. I wanted her to believe me. So I grew up trying to be this great and awesome daughter, but nothing worked.
Mm-mm.
So as I got older, maybe like it was 9 or 10, I told her again, this is happening. And it wasn't until my sister stepped up and said, Mom, she's not lying. And the only reason why my sister was able to say, Mom, she's not lying, was because he had touched her at one point. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just that one time that he had touched her. But that was all she needed for her to jump in and say, no, she's not lying because he touched me. And it wasn't until two of us went to my mother to let her know that this is what he's doing that she was like, okay, then if both my
There's some
daughters are
truth.
telling me this, then it must be true.
So I'm just
And that
imagining.
is when
Mhm,
she said
mhm,
something to him.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just imagining, like a 7-year old. This happens to you, and this person is still in your sphere, in your circle, at your house, at family gatherings, taking you to McDonald's, taking you wherever on the weekends. Like, was your mom working as well?
She was.
So she
And
needed
at this,
help, I'm sure.
mhm,
Once your father went
yeah,
away. Hmm.
yeah. And that's even mentioned in the book how my mother stated, no, he's going to be around because I have a little baby because my mom had a daughter after me. I need his help and he's just taking you to school. And I'm trying to tell her, like, no, he's doing more than just taking me to school and picking me up from school. Like, it just never dawned on her what was actually happening.
Mm, Ladies, we got to listen to our kids. We have to listen. We have to ask. We have to say more than how was school. We have to actually pay attention. I have a question here from the audience. Rose, thank you, says, how did her father know she was being abused? What did her father go to prison for? Do you mind answering those?
Now, I don't mind at all. Um, so my father was in the streets a lot, and he gambled and he played dice and he did everything them street guys would do. And so for that reason, he would always be in and out of prison. It surprised me too when my father told me that he knew. I talk about it in my book as well, how when I went to prison to go see my father, how I was going to then tell him everything, but how my mother took 15 minutes of our time to just speak to my father. And I believe that in those 15 minutes is when my mother shared with him what was happening to me. Because when my father came out of prison, he told me, you won't never see him again. But the craziest thing, y'all, the craziest thing about that is that the guy that had been touching me is the guy that took my father out of prison, is the one that bailed him out. And so when I seen this guy, when I was coming out of school, walking home, I talk about it in my book how I seen this minivan, just slowly approaching me. And I kind of turned around to see what was going on. And it was him, the guy. And, he was saying, come here, I have a surprise for you. And I'm like, no, pretty much. And when I get closer, as he get closer to me and I get closer to the minivan, I kind of looked inside and I seen this shadow. And I talk about in the book how the shadow looks like my father. And so as I got closer, it was my father. This man had just gotten my father out of prison. And I think that's like the craziest thing. Um,
But I
so
think that's
as
what
we went,
predators do, though. I think that's what predators do. They mix, the um, good with evil. They do something that is positive. So your mom's like, "Oh my gosh, I have somebody to help me. Oh my gosh, look at this angel picking up my daughter, taking that stress off my hands." But at the same time, they are mixing those nefarious intentions in. While I have,
mhm,
what do they call it? Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, that kind of thing. People can
mhm,
have these two personalities, and I think it's very hard sometimes for us to see and understand that, because that mother, and again, I don't know your mom, I'm not going to place blame on
mhm,
her, but just thinking of from her perspectives, when people who are these predators put on that face, that
mhm,
friendly, I got your back, sis, I know you're going through a lot, let me help you, they want to take the help, and the person is presenting that face that makes you believe them. So to
yeah,
have that opposite part of their personality, where they are literally destroying someone's soul, implanting and putting all this mess in someone's spirit for life, it's hard
mhm,
sometimes for someone to understand that that can be the same person. So I can understand, from her perspective. And again, no judgment there, but just to understand, why wouldn't she believe? Why would she still keep him around? Why would it be
Right.
somebody that you would continue to trust? And then here yet again, he running games, mental warfare, spiritual warfare, to say,
Right.
yo, daddy and me gonna be back cool, so you definitely not gonna get away from me. I'm gonna make sure I
Right.
stay planted where I can have access to these little girls. So this is a little a lesson, a textbook lesson of how people who have these very evil intentions kind of work their way into gaining trust, and definitely target people in need. They target
Right.
people who are working and need that, help with the child care. And look at her, she's thinking you getting a ride to keep you safe. And
Right.
he,
Right.
this person who is invading, your innocence, and destroying that, again, that innocent spirit. I'm just trying to, like, as I'm listening to your story, there's so many questions. Let me go back to the chat. Is there anything you want to add? Let me go back to the chat and see what they have in terms of their questions. But go through your mindset, like, as you were getting older, were there teachers that you spoke to? Anybody at school that you felt comfortable with saying something to? Not even your siblings?
I didn't tell not a soul. Like
Mm.
literally, this all came out before I published the book. Um,
So,
when I
brothers didn't have
started the
no idea.
project,
Nobody knew nothing.
no, not until I was getting ready to publish the book because what happened was I didn't want to catch them by surprise. Um, so I interviewed my siblings. I interviewed my mother. I interviewed my father. And what they gave me, the answer, I had a lot of questions, and a lot of their answers is in my book. Because what was holding me back from publishing the book was I didn't want to feel like I was embarrassing my parents or I was embarrassing my siblings. But it came to the point of this ain't about them. This has nothing to do with them at all. This is about your freedom. This is about your healing. This is about your release. So once I spoke that to my siblings and spoke that to my parents, I was more at ease to release the book. And they all found out. They all found out once I released the book, everything that was going on with me.
Wow. So all that time growing up in the same household, majority of them as live with you, no one had any
Hmm.
idea. This is
No,
so scary. This is
no,
so scary, because you
no.
could be trying to do the best you can as a mom or a dad, and the very people that you are entrust with your children are very, like, it can have these, it's sad to think that you got to think first bad, or what could possibly
Right.
go wrong with caregivers, but we can't take for granted, guys, who we allow around our children. So there are a few questions here in the chat. I'm going to go to the chat, guys. Thank you guys
Okay.
for hanging with us. Again, sensitive topic, I know it's not easy. So I want to thank our special guest, author Abigail Couzens, for sharing her story from her first book, My Untold Truth. I will be dropping the Amazon link, and she has a new book. I want to get to a little bit of that too, because I think your story is also a story of triumph and healing.
Hmm.
Because I think, obviously, what you're saying, can you imagine, guys, just living a life, and just publishing the book last year, and your family
Yeah.
just finding out your truth? That means you carried a heavy, heavy burden for quite some time. And I always tell
Yeah.
people, when you see people and they seem a little, tight, or a little off, or, as you said, a little angry, or you don't know why. Sometimes it doesn't have anything to do with you or even the current interaction. A lot of times it's what's been festering or sitting on the inside of them, things that we know their family don't even know about. So I think it's
Right.
very good that you show kind of that example of how, people can, in a survival mindset, keep going in a way, but still be
Yeah.
hurting, still want, to gain resolution. Andrea says it's very confusing as a child. You don't really understand what's going on. What did you make of what was going on? Did you feel, because sometimes when you watch it on television, when people are giving their testimony, they say they felt special, or the person made them
Mm.
feel good in a way. Not only the physical interaction, of course, the body reacts to that type of
Hmm.
touch, but did you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm getting attention. I enjoy this attention. Was that your truth?
No, not at all. Never enjoyed any of it.
Hmm.
Um, but what that became of me is a protector. I became a protector because of what I was going through. My main concern, I lied to you not, my main concern as I was going through this was just watching my baby sister and making sure that he never put his oversized hand on her baby knee, is how I say it in the book. So I became a protector of my siblings,
Mm-hmm.
and it just had me be this girl with this attitude. And just because I remember one time, which is also mentioned in the book, how we had to go to his house because we were celebrating his birthday, as if that's something that I wanted to do. But we were going over there to his house to celebrate his birthday, and I heard him call for my baby sister, who is his goddaughter, to come downstairs with him to the basement. I could not have ran over there fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I grabbed my baby sister and I told her no. I said, "You just go play outside. You just go play." And he turned and looked at me and said, "Abigail, you really know how to piss me off. Now you come downstairs with
Oh
me."
my God.
Um, yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
at that point, what am I to do? I'm saving my sister. So she goes and she plays outside, and I take this walk down the basement. And I just talk about how in my book, how he just, you know, pulls out and starts to jack himself off, and how he asks me to play with myself. And I told him no, and how he became angry. And it developed me into this woman growing up that I'm not doing anything extra for a man. In any relationship I'll ever be in as an adult, I always told myself I'm not doing nothing extra for a man, because my innocence was taken away at such a young age. I felt like I didn't owe a man anything. Um, and so growing up, it didn't surprise me that in my adult years that I was always cheated on. In every relationship, I was always cheated on. And it always came down to it being a sexual problem. Well, because they're bored. Well, because I'm basic. Well, because of this and because of that. And I didn't care. I'm like, I don't care what you think of me sexually. I'm not giving you anything extra or anything more. Um, but And I'm still working on that even now, because the book was just released a year ago. I'm still healing through this. I'm still working some things out with myself. The difference is now I'm married.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the
There's so much
difference
there.
for me.
I'm gonna come back to some of the points that you're making now, because if you are a person watching, know somebody who has gone through this, please drop it in the chat. Several of you have been so transparent and sharing your stories. Thank you so very much. This is my special guest, author Abigail Couzens. There's some questions in the chat, Abigail, that will go to some of I think what people are curious about, and y'all gonna get the book because I'm sure she's gonna give it in far more detail. But here, I don't think you can answer this, but hey, Keisha, what is the psychology behind mothers being in denial when children tell them they are being violated? I don't know that she can answer that, but it's a real problem. I think sometimes you don't want to think of a person that you
Mhm.
trust and have known for years. Let me ask you, did your mom have, and this was, I think, something in the chat as well, did your mom have a relationship with this gentleman? This was what was asked. Do3 asked, was this man also involved with your mom?
So, from what I know, they were just friends. No,
Nothing more.
sexual
Hmm.
relations,
Hmm.
nothing more, just friends. But here's what I also want to bring to light, because I think this will also help a lot of you guys that are watching now, is that when my mother found out she was pregnant with me, she didn't want to be. See,
Mm.
because the ironic thing here is that she had gotten her tubes tied right after she had my sister. And the doctors had, told her that they guaranteed her 7 years of her tubes being tied. Well, me and my sister is only 2 years apart. And so when she found out that she was pregnant with me, she didn't want me. And I talk about in my book how I was considered a mistake to
Wow.
my mother, but a miracle to my father. And the reason why I was a mistake to my mother was because she already had children. My dad was in and out of prison, and he was getting her pregnant every time he came home. She didn't want to have me, but my father wanted her to have me. And when I interviewed my mother, because she told me throughout my years that I was a mistake. And as I got older and had the guts to ask her, I asked her, well, what did she mean I was a mistake? And she told me how, many of times she tried to get an abortion. That didn't work. She said she used to hit her stomach so that I would die, and that didn't work. She tried to put a hanger in her, and that didn't work. I'm still here. And I talk about in the book how I was 9 months old and I fell down the basement steps in my baby walker. The question is, who left the door open? Who left the door open? Because it was my sister and my mother home. And my sister tells me that before she went upstairs, that the basement door was closed and it was a latch on there. So it was closed and locked. How do I fall down the basement steps in my baby walker? So growing up, certain things was happening to me, and I was feeling like, wow, I really am my mother's mistake. But why? Um, and it just never really dawned on me that my mother really has this hatred towards me. Um, and so even to this day, our relationship is not solid, and that's very unfortunate. Um, but yeah.
Wow, there's so much there. Would you describe in your home being a loving home other than this? Was it stable? Was it orderly? Was it safe other than this, obviously? Would you
It
consider that? Hmm.
Yeah, it was because it was so many of us in the house. It's like we kind of just looked out for each other. My mom was, working and doing her thing. So I just had my other female siblings. My brother, he was a little older than me, and he went into the military. My mother signed him in when he was 17.
Mm.
So I didn't get much of my youth with him. But my other siblings, my sisters, I just kind of had them
Mm.
to kind of
Lean on
lean
to,
on.
yeah. So between your elder sister and you, were you guys the only two victims of this gentleman, of this person?
From what I know, from what was shared so far, yes.
I have another question here, and thank you again for your transparency. Live in wisdom's curious. Are you mixed race? If so, which one of your parents is black, and was your abuser black? Would you mind answering that?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay. I think I might have lost you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me now? 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 Can you hear me? I think I can hear you just fine. I can hear you just fine. I can hear you
Let's
just
see.
fine. I can hear you just
You can
fine.
hear me, but I
Yes.
can't hear. I can't hear you. I have.
Yeah, okay. Little audio. I can hear you.
Yeah.
Just fine. Okay.
Okay,
So
then
you
let
want to
me
use the out external? I can
see.
hear you just fine.
Let me
I can hear
say,
you just turn down your
okay.
mic just a bit. Turn down your. I'm gonna mute you for a second and just do a quick reset so everybody don't hear. But the question is, they were curious if you're a mixed race and which one, if so, if your parents is black, and was your abuser black? Would you mind answering that? Turn down your. I'm gonna mute you for a second. Okay, there's a little bit of a delay. I hope. I hope. Let me see if she will catch on. I don't know. I love the internet. Don't y'all just love the internet? Yes, we love the internet. Okay, there's a little bit of a delay. I hope.
Yeah, there is a delay.
I hope. Let me see if she will catch on. You can answer the question. I love the internet. Don't y'all just love the internet? Yes. There's a little bit of a delay. I hope.
Yeah, there is a delay.
I hope. Let me see if she will You can answer the question.
Okay. So the question, why?
I think she might be having some internet problems. Let me remove you from the stream, y'all. This is heavy stuff. This is heavy lifting, and I'm gonna add you back to the stream, Miss Abigail. Once you get that sorted out, I might actually remove you and then ask you to come back on. I'm assuming, yeah. I think she just headed out, but I'm assuming the connection just went bad. You guys, I hope you're enjoying. This is a tough subject matter. I know this will be very triggering for some of you. I'm just gonna do a quick reset while Miss Abigail comes back on. My special guest is Miss Abigail Couzens. This is her Cash App. If anybody wants to support her, she has 2 books. We're talking about her first book, which was written last year, My Untold Truth, that journey from being a 7-year-old victim of childhood sex abuse, and now writing a wonderful, I don't know if it's a sequel, but it has so much, a different tone, I think, probably from the first book. I see her back, so let me see if I can, please like and subscribe. Let me see if I can bring her back if she can hear okay. Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Fantastic. The internet don't want us to be great sometimes, but we
Don't want
move
us
it.
to be
We move
great.
it. We're doing our thing. So I want to thank you again, my special guest, Miss author, I should say 2-time author, Abigail Couzens, was just talking about some of her experiences being in a household where she experienced childhood sex abuse. This was an interesting question. I don't know if you're comfortable answering it. This was from Live Wisdom. I am sure, I don't know if you heard it. Are you mixed race? If so, which one of your parents is Black, and was your abuser Black? Do you mind answering that?
I don't mind. I'm Hispanic,
Hmm.
Puerto Rican,
A Puerto
um,
Rico. Okay.
Puertorriqueña.
Both Boricua, both parents.
Yes, both of my
Okay.
parents
Mhm.
are Puerto Rican. Within my family, we're Black Rican.
Okay.
That's
Cool.
how we call it. But I am Puerto Rican, and
Okay.
my abuser was also Hispanic as well.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions I see. Thank you guys for being so active in the chat. Simon, what's up? I see you there, sir. There's so many comments about just, oh my goodness. Hey, Mika, how are you, darling? Terry writes, I was abused. It left me considered legally blind and a little memory loss. The story is on my channel. Girl, we'll check that out.
Wow.
Wow. Um, so this is one of my questions. Was he ever charged? Did y'all ever bring charges against this guy?
I know I didn't. All I know is that when my father came out of prison and he was fully aware of what was happening, he told me that I would never see that man again. And I've never saw that man again.
Is he alive? I don't mean to laugh. Okay. 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 We will leave it like that. Okay. Okay, Dad, laying down the law. Laying down the law was like, no more. This is not, well, I'm proud of Dad for doing that. So it's
Yeah,
not to come out and be passive about it and make excuses for somebody and talk about how people misunderstand what's going on. No, 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 no.
yeah,
I love the fact that he was, doing what Dad's supposed to do,
right,
protect
right.
their child. Wow. Interesting that you talk about the relationship with your mother not wanting you. That is so deep,
Hmm.
because you're not the first woman I've ever heard say that, where your mom, supposed to be your original, I don't know, caregiver, lover, apple of
Hmm.
your eye, or you're the apple of her eye, to know someone and someone says out loud to you, I didn't want you, or you were a mistake. I
Hmm.
can't imagine how that would make one feel. And I
Hmm.
wonder if that is in part why she denied that you were telling the truth. Like, there's so much in
Right.
my head that's like, did she want that to happen to you? Did it happen to her, was another question I had, because sometimes abuse, travels generationally, because people who had their boundaries violated sometimes don't set or allow their
Right.
children's boundaries to be violated. So do you know if she had any history of sexual abuse, and talk about what that was like growing up in a house where your
Hmm.
mama don't like you, or
Right.
it's known that your mom say she didn't want you.
Right. I don't believe that my mother had any, like, she wasn't a victim to this degree. I know that she always says she felt like the slave of her siblings.
Mm.
So I knew that she had some issues with that.
Okay.
But as far as me feeling like a mistake, I grew up feeling that, feeling just that, that I was a mistake to my mother, but still feeling like I was a mistake to my mother. I still tried to please her in every way. I still tried to like go for her attention, go for her love. I just didn't, was like, well, whatever, I'm doing my own thing. You're dead to me. It wasn't never that, even in high school, I was senior class president. I was a White Williams Scholar. I was top 25. I was in the National Honor Society. I mean, I was on stage with all types of sashes going on because when I say I did everything just to have my mother do one of these. And
Mm.
that just came hard to get from her.
Mm.
And not to mention that she kicked me out of the house on prom night with
Okay,
my
tell me
prom
about
dress
that.
on.
Hold on. Mom kicks out you at prom night. This is
Yeah.
like I said, this is her internal struggle. I'm so sorry that you had to live that because that's her internal struggle. Did she not Was she angry with your father for being away, you think? Was she mad at being pregnant by him, or what was there like a tension with your dad?
I don't know because here's the thing. After me, she got pregnant again. So it's like, why am I the target? Like I really didn't understand why I would be the target growing up because I was so young. But being older, um, you know, I have the Holy Spirit that encourages me and strengthens me. So now I can look back at my 7-year-old self and say, you were the target because you were going to be given the strength to endure this. You were the target because you were going to be the one that I needed to write the book. You were the target because you were the one that were going to stand up and to share your story and to bless and to help so many others. So when I look at it like that, yeah, I want to know why was I the target? But when I look at it in the spiritual sense, I have to say, why not me?
Mm,
I have to
absolutely.
say, why not me?
Mm.
And I'd rather it had been me than any of my other siblings.
There's a lot of courage there. I think what you're talking about, I can't even imagine because I just it just hit me that speaking of your spiritual walk, that your family had church in y'all basement. So that tells you what kind of family this is. This is a family that is supposed to be grounded in biblical principles and following and being led by God and the Holy Spirit through Jesus Christ. So just imagining your faith being as strong as it is now, even though the very fabric of you was kind of like torn away, that
Hmm.
beautiful, innocent being was violated in a house that went to church every Sunday in the basement.
Right.
Like, you get
In
what
the
I'm saying? Like,
basement. In the
it's just
basement.
a crazy juxtaposition that you would even still
Yeah.
love God or even say,
Hmm.
God, this is your hand in this. Because there are
Right.
a lot of people that would be angry with God, or a lot of
Right.
people that would curse God and
Right.
say, this, you let this happen to me, and yet these are, praise God, Holy Ghost people, and right in their house, this all is happening. So I don't know,
Right.
did you have grandparents or anybody that also
Mm-mm.
became involved in the story, or that you told about the story, or that it
No.
just recently only your siblings and such?
No. My grandparents actually are all dead.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So no, I didn't. Never
Hmm.
spoke to any of them about it. But to your point about growing up in church, when I was younger, we was forced to go. So as I got older, I became rebellion. I didn't want to go. I hated church. I
Okay.
hated the people of God.
Mm.
Um, and so I grew up being one of those teenagers. I'm not going to church anymore because I was forced to go. I'm not going to church. I don't love God because of X, Y, and Z so much. So many different reasons and excuses I gave to God to why I was no longer choosing to follow Him. Um, but
Yeah, but
those He
he
saves.
heals. This is crazy because, like I said, not crazy, but in my heart, I know there's so many people watching that has had whether it's something like this or something traumatic period happened to them, and they look at God and they blame God. And just to
Mhm.
hear your story of coming, back full circle, I want to
Right.
ask you a little bit more about whether you began to act out as a young girl when we talked about, you know, girls and boys being labeled as fast or promiscuous? And I think it was Grandma of 11 had a good comment that, you know, promiscuity is often a reaction. Like it's not how you were necessarily, it's often how, you know, something is kind of imposed on you and then you are reacting to it. Did you go through that? Were you promiscuous as a teen? Were you, you know, you said you were rebellious in the church sense. You know, some people turn to, you know, not only sex but drug use. Some people turn to things like prostitution. Did you have any after effect as a teen and as a young adult having this in your spirit?
Once I got away from him, I was good on not having sex. It wasn't until I was like 18 or 19 that I would say I lost my virginity, because that's when I
Oh.
gave it. So, no, I didn't become fast. I wasn't this 16-year-old girl, 17-year-old girl that was just out here doing this because this happened when I was 7, 8, 9, and 10. Like, I was the opposite. I didn't want nobody touching me. Don't touch
Mm,
me. Don't
mm.
touch me. Don't look at me. Don't nothing. Like, I just became a fighter. And like I said, it wasn't until I was 18 or 19 that I gave myself away for the first time. And even after that, I really wasn't big on like jumping into in and out of relationships because I was broken. I was just broken. And then after that, I had to deal with cervical cancer. And so when I found out that they were saying I had cervical cancer, my first thought was, how did this happen? Did it come from this? Did it come
Wow.
from him? Did he mess up my cervix because I was so young? Like, I had so many questions. And I dealt with that for 2 years before I told anybody.
Wow.
So for me, it was just like I never had a break in life. It was like from 7 to 15, I had to deal with being sexually abused and molested. And then at 17, I had to deal with, being kicked out of the house. And then at 20, 21, I had to deal with, cervical cancer for 2 years. So
Mm.
it was just like, this is like a never ending thing for me. And so I always was asking the Lord, when is my break? When is my
Oh,
break? I'm
that so
tired.
yeah, I'm like, girl, what? I don't mean I laugh to keep from crying. I'm like, what? That's a lot for one person's life. To thank
Mhm,
you, Retro Babe. I appreciate you coming over. Like to say that, okay, we all expect, okay, sometimes you have a bad break. And that's to put it lightly. That's like not trying to show
mhm,
insensitivity. But you know, we talk about the luxury of growing in a stable household nowadays is like a
mhm,
huge luxury. So to have one's childhood disrupted, you know, your formative years when you're supposed to be loved, cared for, protected, not only by a father being locked away, but then on
mhm.
top of that, this horrific um, uh, period of time, because it's 7 to 15, you said it's a
Yeah,
long time
long time.
to be subject to somebody's abuse. And then on top of that, mom seems like she's dealing with her own issues in and
Mhm,
around you and herself. And
mhm,
so to have her, you know, first ignore, but then, okay, the other sister, your sibling comes forward. Okay, now it must be some truth. Dad comes home, thankfully, does what dad is supposed to do,
mhm.
protects his daughter, and then puts you out. What was that stage of your life like? Then on top of that, several, I'm like, I can't even, you still going, ma'am. You still you still here. And I'm just like, let me not complain. Help me, God, not to complain. I can't even imagine. So there was like
Yeah.
that abrupt, like you had to leave your mom's house like at 18, no joke. Like
And
what was that
like,
period of your life like?
yeah, like she had bagged my stuff up. Like
Mm.
she had bagged my stuff. I came in from, well, let me back up. Um, at the prom, I took my sister to my prom. And I don't know why, but for some reason, she thought that that was a setup to something else. And I was so confused. I'm like, a setup to what? Like, um, I was just so confused. I took my sister to my prom, and when we got to prom, I couldn't find my sister. for like 45 minutes. I could not find my sister. So now I'm freaking out. I'm not enjoying myself. But I'm senior class president. So everyone is expecting me to, like, vibe with them. And when I found my sister 45 minutes later, she was on the phone. And I'm like, who are you on the phone with? And she was on the phone with our mother. My mother had been trying to get a hold of me, but my sister wouldn't let her have access to me. And I'm like, why does she want to get a hold of me? Like, it's my prom, like I'm not doing anything wrong. And she just caused this big commotion. So at the time, I asked for my sister if I could use the phone, and I called my father. My father now is in Puerto Rico, and he was coming to Philly for my graduation. So he was coming in like the next 2 weeks or so for graduation. I called my dad crying, hysterical, and he was like, I'm coming. I'm coming right now. And I'm like, what? What do you mean you're in Puerto Rico? And literally, I think it was the next day or 2 days later, my father was in Philly. But after prom, when I went back home, my mom just had my stuff bagged up. And I'm like, where am I going? Like,
Wow.
where am I going? And
Wow.
it was
Wow.
something like it was something like in the movies, because my mother is yelling from the top window, and my sister threw me the keys like we were in the movie. I caught it in like midair and started the car and just drove off. And I went to my best friend's house, still in my prom dress on. It's 4 o'clock in the morning now. By the time all of this happened, I'm banging on my best friend's door. She answers the door, and I'm just like in tears. And she's like, what happened? Like, we just left prom. And I'm telling her, my mom just kicked me out. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know why she's doing this to me, X, Y, and Z. And from then on, I did not go back to my mother's house. And I went to my sister's house. I stayed with my sister for some time, but I still wanted to see my little sister. So when I went back to my mom's house to see my little sister, I had to wait outside.
Mm.
I had to wait outside. I couldn't go inside. If I needed to use the restroom, I just had to hold it. And I just was not understanding, like, why? So when my little sister got older and she graduated from high school, she went to LA. She went to Northridge University. And I'm still like overprotective of my sister, not wanting anything to happen to her. She went to California. I went to California. And so that's how I ended up out there. My brother had been stationed in San Diego. So I stayed with my brother for a few years. The entire time my sister was in college, I stayed with my brother just to have that. If anything happens to you, I'm like 2 hours away.
Jesus. Can I just stop you? I'm like, clearly mom had a lot more going on within herself about you. There was some,
Mhm.
I don't know. You've seen it like that kind of like color purple-esque, like that has nothing to do with who you are, but what they're carrying
Mhm.
regarding themselves and about you.
Mhm.
So the fact that you are able to be so, I guess at peace with what all happened is a
Mhm.
miracle in and of itself. Because, once that seed is planted in that parent, and it's trying to get to the child, it's trying to
Right.
destroy really generationally the child. So to see you married and thriving, thank God,
Mhm.
and now serving in a capacity of mentoring and helping other women through, by your writings and otherwise, is like a huge testimony. Because I think, when we talk about that realm, that spiritual realm that comes to cut us down, make us not believe who we are, make us believe lies, destroy relationships, wanting us not to therefore have healthy relationships going forward. Like it's very important to recognize it for what it is. It really wasn't about your mom.
Mhm.
As hurt as she sounds, she probably could have used good therapy, because it
Yeah.
sounds like she had her own healing to do. But I'm glad that even though maybe your relationship has not been fully mended, you don't sound like you blame her. And I'm
Mhm.
grateful for that, because sometimes we don't even know what our parents go through. Our
Right.
parents are not perfect. Our parents don't have a playbook. Our parents have their own healing to do.
Right.
And if they haven't done it, I can imagine working, husband in jail, 9, 10 kids. I could just imagine her life.
Mm-hmm.
Not to again,
Right.
make an excuse, but I'm just trying to put myself in her position to do all this, act like this, throw them, get out, bag
Right.
pack, prom night, goodbye, good luck. It's been great.
Right.
Like I'm like trying to think how you've been re-traumatized 10 times, my love.
Yeah.
And just to think
Yeah.
about the survival of it all. Like I just can't even comprehend, the
Mm-hmm.
strength you must have to be sitting here right now to say to myself, to say to yourself, like I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, what would I have done to, if I had endured all of this, would I be in my right mind? Would I
Right.
be able to say what you're saying, which is like, no, I have a testimony, which is why I
Right.
want to get a little bit into the second book, y'all. I dropped the link, and anybody want to come up and talk about their experiences when it comes to this type of abuse, you're welcome. You're welcome. We
Mm-hmm.
have someone who has been on one side of it and is helping people through it with us today, Miss Abigail Couzens. And I just wanted you guys also to hear what the second book is about because it
Mm-hmm.
pivots a little. So
Yeah.
we are definitely wanting to be very frank about how life can throw you. You could call it a curveball, but literally tragedy on top of tragedy. Now you got full healing from cervical cancer,
Yeah. So let me talk about that for a
please.
moment. So when that happened, of course, I was like so confused to how this could even happen. And so for all of the procedures, so what they wanted to do was remove my cervix because they said that my cervix was filled with, dark cells, black cells, and cervical cancer cells.
Mm.
And but first they said it was only on half of the cervix. So I asked them, I said, well, just remove half of the cervix, right? And they're like, well, if we do that, then you'll just have a 50-50 chance of having children or being able to carry full term. At this point, coming out of what I had just experienced from 7 to 15, I didn't want children anyway. So I was like, it's no big deal. Um, just do half of the cervix. So then I thought about it and I was like, no. So then I was asking them, I said, well, how about scraping? Can you guys scrape it off? And they was like, yeah, we can try to do that, but it's going to cost. So I filled out so many applications for grants and I was approved until the grant money ran out after 2 years. And so after them scraping for so long, so they scraped one time and they said, it's all gone. We're going to bring you back in 6 months and we're going to see how it looks. They brought me back. It was double, double the cervical cancers, double the black cells around my
No.
cervix. It had grown double. So they're like, now it's on your entire cervix.
Mhm.
So the best thing to do is just remove it altogether, and you'll just never be able to have children. At that time, I was going back and forth, but I still ended up saying no. We're not going to remove my entire cervix. Skip a year and a half later to me running out of grant money. I began to posture myself before the Lord. Um, and I'm like, Lord, what am I to do? And the only thing I kept hearing was apply pressure. Go again for another appointment and apply pressure. And I'm like, Lord, apply pressure to what? To who? Like, I've been going through this now for almost 2 years. What do you mean apply pressure? Like, the doctors are tired of me because I keep denying everything they want to do. Like, how much pressure do you want me to put on them? And it was never them. He said, apply pressure to your faith. And I was like, what? So at that moment, I like fell on my knees before the Lord and just cried. And I applied pressure to my faith and I made myself believe the words of the Lord. And I said, Lord, I am healed. And I just started speaking over myself. I just started walking in victory. And this is 2 years later. And I went into my next appointment and I said, I need y'all to look at me one more time. They was like, ain't nothing to look at. We got all of these sample cells that we've been getting from you for 2 years. No more grant money. They're like, there's nothing else to look at. I said, I just need y'all to look at me one more time. So this is me now applying the pressure. And they didn't want to do it. And I kept applying pressure. And I remember being in the hospital and looking out of the window and just telling the Lord, if I never have children, I'm good. Just heal me from the cervical cancer. And so it was time for me to lay back down. The doctors came in. The first doctor looked at me and he was like, hold on. So he left and he went to go get someone else. They went down there, looked at me, and they was like, hold on. They went to go get someone else. And so now I have all of these people looking at me in the room. And the doctor said, we don't understand it. At that moment, I cried so hard because I knew that I was healed. They was like, we don't understand it. They said, we've been scraping these cells out of you for 2 years. But now it looks like you've never had anything. Like we can't even tell you where we got the sample cells from because there's nothing in you that is leading us to the samples that we've been pulling out of you. I went back to that window and I just praised God so heavy because I'm like, Lord, the doctors cannot get any of these praises. I said, the praise definitely belongs to you. And I know that it was solely you that did this because they don't even understand how this can be done. But that's the type of God that we serve, is that when he heals you, he won't leave no residue for anybody else to get the victory or to get the glory because all glory and all honor belongs to him.
Wow. I'm not even going to be able to shout like I want to shout. Won't he do it?
Yes, he did.
Miracles are still happening every day, you guys. So for someone who has been fighting cervical cancer for 2 years to go back after praying, God, I may not be able to have a child, but it's okay. Please heal me.
Right.
Just save my life. And then to go back and not see any form, any
Right.
residue, as you put it.
Right.
That's amazing.
Right.
That's miraculous.
Right.
That is supernatural intervention.
Right.
And in medicine, they see it all the time.
Right.
That things that are literally cannot be explicable by regular science, that you could pray and still be heard and get
Right.
your healing.
And get your
Girl, I don't want
healing.
to get excited over here. Let me just get to my chat. Y'all throw some in the chat. Y'all throw some in the chat. This is not a game right here. This is somebody's life. She could be in the grave, but she's here sitting with us. Some more work to do, apparently.
Right.
A story to tell, apparently.
Right.
For someone who is out there who thinks that their story has already been written and it is done. Right. Apparently, it's not done until he says it's done.
Right.
So there's an amazing girl for all you've been through. Something that like this that is literally a miracle.
Right.
To give you back your life, to give you back a beginning is amazing. And I don't want to gloss over it because there are people who may feel like their circumstances are coming to an end, are hopeless,
right,
are in a place where it cannot, take a 180. But never say never.
Never.
Can you imagine to have still faith after having endured all that you endured to face this giant and say, no, well, let me back up. I'm going to go ahead and take this one through my faith walk.
Right.
Through the lens of faith, through understanding who I am in God. Help us all, Lord. That we are all in all. We are here. We are reflections of the Most High.
Right.
and all that came to your life to what they say, the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy.
Steal
It
and
could have killed
destroy.
you,
Mm-hmm.
quite literally. Not
Mm-hmm.
only in as a spiritual way as a child, but quite
Right.
physically.
Right. Right.
This is
Right.
amazing.
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
was a huge test, but thank God for the testimony.
Thank God for the
The realness
testimony.
of like life struggle, guys, coming on the other side, coming to the other side of it. Like a
Mm-hmm.
miraculous healing of one cervix. That's not a joke. Cervical cancer, if
Right.
you ever seen people die of that, my mom is a registered nurse, but she talk about all the treatment. It's a horrible death.
Mm-hmm.
It's a horrible death. But to
Mm-hmm.
be healed from it is even more like mind blowing. So thank you for
Right.
sharing that. That's huge, guys. I gotta read the chat because I'm like, well, he could do it for you. Won't he do it for me too? In whatever area it
Yeah,
is.
he will.
That's amazing. So I know you had. What you say? Keisha say, apply that pressure. Hallelujah. Can't get
Apply
happy
the
like I want to
pressure.
get happy. Can't. I'll get my little praise when I get home. Can't get happy. Y'all won't see me on this. I'll be doing a little laugh, but it's a miracle in front of us, guys. Just imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
There's still miracles for all of us. Oh
Absolutely.
my gosh, I can't even. I'm gonna
Absolutely.
move on, but I'm gonna read some of the chat. Thank you. The hands are up. Tell that storm to move. Absolutely. Thank you, Pat. I see you. Hello, hands in the air. Hello.
Oh,
Praise be to God. Testimonies will. Hello. They're not for us. They're
amen.
for other people.
Right.
It's good to speak it. It's good to write it. It's good to share
Right.
it. Amen, amen, and amen. Hallelujah. But God said
Amen.
something else. Wow.
Amen. Amen.
God heals physically and emotionally. I see you, Links, all day, every day, still
Mm-hmm.
in this scientific world.
Right.
Or when we really need him, he's
Right.
there.
Right.
Wow. Tell us a little bit, sis, about your second book, because I think it goes hand in hand from where we started to where we are today. You had
Yeah.
a second book. Actually, it's coming out. It hasn't come out yet. Is it come out
It's
yet?
out.
It's
It's
out.
out.
Okay. Tell us about
Yeah,
the
it's
second
out.
book.
Yeah.
Yes.
So women and posture. Ooh, let me tell you.
Mm.
So once I got done with my unspoken truth now told, um, the Lord downloaded a title and 13 more chapters. And I'm like, Lord, what is this? Like, I'm just coming off of my unspoken truth now told. And the Lord said, you've now, you've told your story, you've released it. Now I need you to posture yourself. And I'm like, but I'm tired, like emotionally, like I'm tired, like I need a break.
I can only
And
imagine.
it was no break. When the Lord downloads, you want to be writing. When the Lord downloads, you want to be taking in what He is saying. So when He gave me the title and He gave me the front cover and He gave me the just all of it, the chapters, I was like, I'll get started. I'll get started. And it was so like healing for me because I felt like my release happened in this book. But now I'm in a place where now I have to posture myself, not only before the Lord, but before my audience, because there's going to be a lot of people that's going to be asking me about this. And if I'm not postured, I'm not going to be able to answer anything. I'm still going to be a wreck. So it was through this book that the Lord has postured me to speak on my unspoken truth now told. When I'm on different platforms just talking about the book, if I cry, I cry. I don't care. I let the tears flow because it's real. And this is what people need to see. They need to see how I overcame. So the next young girl and next young boy can be like, wait a minute, if she went through that, and if she went through X, Y, and Z and still found the strength to posture herself, so can I. And so the book Women in Posture is titled Women in Posture, but it's for everybody. And I like to think of it as a devotional. but it is to help us posture ourselves back to where it all began, with God. And just posturing us back and believing that we are daughters and we are kings of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So when the Lord was giving me the chapters for this book, I said, it ain't nobody but God, because it ain't no way that I could have come up with these 13 chapters.
My
And
goodness.
so I want to share them with you. So chapter 1 is women of prayer.
Mm.
Chapter 2 is women that fast. And chapter 2 is so important because oftentimes we think fasting, we take fasting as a diet. Fasting is not a diet. We don't substitute food. We don't say, oh, we're going to fast because we're trying to lose 2, 3, or 5 pounds. That's not what fasting is. So, chapter 2 talks about fasting. Chapter 3 talks about women that are broken. Chapter 4 talks about women with a plan. Chapter 5 talks about women with hidden secrets. Chapter 6 talks about women that are healed. Chapter 7 talks about women that wait. Chapter 8 talks about women with purpose. Chapter 9 talks about women in fear. Chapter 10 talks about women with character. Chapter 11 talks about women with vision. Chapter 12 talks about women with faith. And chapter 13 talks about women in posture. And the goal of writing this book and the goal for my readers is that by the time they get done writing this book, they have found themselves in one of these chapters, but have been able to posture themselves back to their rightful place as daughters or kings of the kingdom. That is the purpose of women in posture. After each chapter, it has activities, it has questions, and it has challenges. And I challenge people that read my book to email me. Let me know where you at with it. And if you're taking me up on any of the challenges, to let me know, because I'm coming back to you with another challenge.
You're pulling that Cindy Trim on it.
That's my spiritual mother. I've
I love you.
learned from the
Like, let me to do put something out there that makes people move. Though I respect that, because there's a lot spiritually that many of us should be doing and we don't do.
Mhm,
Sometimes we need that little bit of push, that little
mhm.
conviction, that little, is she talking to me? So that we
Right,
do move and we do get on the assignment. Like that's what that
right.
sounds like. Like
I
that this
like what
sounds like,
Links is
yeah.
saying. This is
Yes.
the
Good
God I know.
word.
He
Good
never
brother.
ends anything on a
Yeah.
negative. I know that's right.
Amen. Amen.
I
Yeah.
know that's right.
Let's just like, yes, walk by faith. Corinthians 2:5-7 says,
5 and 7.
Mika, thank you very much. Y'all, if you guys want to come up, there are some people that had expressed that they had also been in similar situations. And if you're on the other side of it, if you want to share, you don't have to show your face. If you'd like to come up, I've dropped the link. We have a few minutes. We're going to go probably until about 5. So if we have anyone who wants to come up, share a testimony, share their experience, like I said, whether you're on camera or not doesn't matter. But I want to give the opportunity because, again, I think this is going to be just it's going to lift some of that
Mhm,
heaviness. And then there is not, just one form of the way this story takes place. There are many of you have
right.
experienced certain things. I saw in the chat as well. So if you
Mhm.
want to, you can come up. No pressure. Again, we're gonna go for a little bit longer. I know she has another engagement. Andrea, this is the vision I had for this channel. She's talking about. Thank you.
Oh,
This better than exactly.
amen.
I didn't know nothing about no therapy, but I was doing my workshops live for this very reason. There was a release that needed to happen. There was an unburdening that I
Amen.
saw even in myself that I needed to get, align, let go, open up, not carry things from my past. If this is not an
Right.
example, this wonderful woman here is not an example of that, how we could let our past get the final word, but
Mhm.
it should not have the final word. So I
Right.
realized if we're going to talk about all the other stuff, we're going to talk about relationships, we're going to talk about this and business and all that. The first part is one's own self evolution.
Right.
understanding who you are today and what helped make you who you are today.
Right.
But more importantly, if there are negative things in that story, facing them, dealing with
Mhm.
them,
Mhm.
learning new tools and how to process them so that
Right.
we don't get stuck or we don't stay in that mindset, in that
Right.
personality frame. We angry, we
Right.
mad. All these things
Right.
that people in our society deal with because they have not had help in unburdening and helping to process what has happened to them. So that's
Right.
really what the core
Right.
mission of the channel has been, and
Mhm.
will continue to be when it comes to the Suzette Speaks show, because I know there are so many people that can benefit from
Mhm.
hearing a woman like Miss Couzens talk about what she's been through. You thought you was the only one, huh? Everybody can
Mhm.
can relate, but then there was like, whoa, another one,
Right.
and yet here she is,
Right.
right, sharing her testimony. So
And
yes,
can
when
I
the law,
and can I just
go ahead. Yes, I
what
love
you
this. When the
say when
word
the
when
Lord
the word
download?
downloads, she said a word. Yes, I'm waiting on that.
Right.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Amen. So, because I also wanted to share, I have so much happening. So, this book I want to share is written in a poetic format. I love poetry. And so, I'm working on the audio for it because just how I gave the introduction live is how I wrote the entire book. So, right now, I'm working on the
Wow.
audio for the book. I started it over a year ago, but I couldn't get through it because it was so emotional. So I gave myself a year off. I'm at a better place now. I'm stronger than I was when the book first came out. So now I am working on the audio book and it should be released next year. So you guys stay tuned with that. And I just wanted to say, follow me on Instagram and social media so that
Yes.
we can connect and we can continue to grow with one another. Because, like someone said, this is better than therapy. This is what we need. We need people, that speaks out, that shares their truth and is no longer afraid. I said on a different platform, someone asked me, well, why are you stepping up to the plate? I'm stepping up to the plate because too often we hear, survival stories from like 50-year-olds and 60-year-olds and 70-year-olds. But where's the millennials? Where's the millennials that can help millennials? Where's the millennials that can help these babies? It's cute to hear success stories from 50 and 60 and 70-year-olds, but it's so much more personable when millennials is raising up another millennial. So if you have a story, the
Yeah.
whole point of me writing my story is to open up someone else's mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much there. I can't like I said, fully comprehend even in this. I'm actually after this, guys, I usually just sit quietly and just listen to what's going on in my head and what's going on in my spirit, because sometimes even as I'm thinking about what you just said, you miss certain things. So then it'll
Mhm.
come back to me and it'll give me a word. So I encourage you guys. I tell you, I do it for you, but I do it for myself too. In terms of understanding what is going on inside of me and why I respond certain ways to certain things. It's like very, very real, guys. We don't even know sometimes. And for those of you who have endured something like this and have never spoken about it,
Mhm.
consider getting therapy.
Mhm.
Consider getting therapy, because there are a lot of times you can't speak it. You feel some type of way. You feel like you'll be judged, or there's a lot of guilt. And I
Mhm.
saw a comment I just want to address, because I don't want it to be taken out of context. I saw a comment, and again, last call if you want to come on up to speak to this beautiful author.
Mhm.
But I saw a comment that had something about excusing your mom, and I don't think that was the gist of where I was going with that conversation about what your mom might have been going through. So I
Mhm.
wanted to just and I know y'all be saying, so get out the comments, but I've been looking sometimes and I'm like, well, let me just clarify in case anyone wanted to illumine a little bit more. So I think, here we go, thank you. This story and still nothing for mom. I guess moms are off limits. That's not what I meant. I didn't mean that her mom has no responsibility for her role in not being able to protect her daughter, or inviting someone who she may have initially trusted. But again, once you
Mhm.
spoke to her, she should have acted
Right.
immediately. So this is not
Mhm.
ever, don't think that I was absolving mom. I
Right.
was simply trying to understand why and what must have been going on inside of her. But that's not to say, as a parent, her role was to protect her daughter. Absolutely. At the
Right.
end of the day, whether dad is gone, locked up, or whatever, it's your daughter. From the first time, the police should be called.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing. So it's not about saying that mom, could do no wrong. No, no. But I
Mm-hmm.
was just in my head, I'm like, what would possess a woman to? I go
Right.
there, I say it out loud to you. But it's not a matter of saying that mom doesn't have any responsibility in this, or that she should not have operated or responded differently. Not at all. I just want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that's clear because I saw that fly by.
Yes.
But I just in my mind, I was like, well, if you are a single mom, if you are having 10 children to deal with, well, you do want the help, so you say, oh, he gonna do, shut up, don't make him mad, because I need
Mm-hmm.
someone to help with the groceries, I need
Right.
someone to pick me up and drop me off. But it is not in any way trying to excuse her or absolve her from any of
Right.
her culpability. So I want to make sure
Right.
I'm clear with that. Did you want to add anything to that? I saw that fly by and I was like, let me get back to that real
Yeah.
quick.
And I just want to be clear too, even though all of this happened and my mom didn't believe it, my mom kicked me out of the house and all, I love my mama to death. I do. And I don't put any of this blame on my mother at all. Because I'm strong with the word of God, that he says that all things work together for our good. And even though I didn't see it working for my good when I was 7, 8, 9, and 10 years old, look at me now at 35 years old. It's working for my good. So I don't blame my mother for anything. I do pray for her healing and I pray for her release in whatever area that she may need. The only thing I'm saddened and I'm still heartbroken about is that when I interviewed her for this book, I thought that it was going to be the start of our new beginning. Not the case, um, which is okay because in due timing, things will work itself out. We haven't spoken since the book was released, um, which is heartbroken. But in any case, when I released Women in Posture, guess who I mailed out a copy to? My mama.
My
She
Lord.
is still my mother. She
Mm,
is still my mother.
mm,
She is the woman that carried me. She is the vessel that
mm.
the Lord used to carry
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
And for
yeah.
that, I am grateful and I'm honored to be called her daughter. Um,
That's huge because I think especially where there are so many families where the parent has not gotten it exactly right, and I say that in a broad sense, not just about your mom, because I'm not trying to characterize it as not getting it right. I'm trying to characterize the broader audience as having had rough patches, and some people on an ongoing basis just don't have good relationships with their parents, and it hurts.
yeah.
I can't imagine again wanting to gain someone's approval so badly as you talked about,
Mhm.
because that's how we're wired. Psychologists will tell you that even if the
Yeah.
parent is rejecting, you still seeking that approval, wanting to get that
Yeah.
at a girl, at a boy, wanting to somehow make them proud. That's real. So
Yeah.
when we have the situations where, and I think it's very frequent where people lose contact with their parents, or the issues from the childhood or the time where they were being raised never get resolved, it's
Hmm.
hard to repair that relationship into adulthood, especially in a situation like this where she may feel guilt now. She may
Hmm.
feel like, oh my gosh, now you're trying to blame me. No, 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 I'm just telling my truth. This is not even
Right.
about you per se, but a lot of times does become like a thorn in the side of the relationship where you're just
Yeah.
trying to show you, mom, I want you to even be proud of this book, but you
Yeah.
can't give me that, and that's
Right.
okay. And that sometimes it's hard because we want them to be able to give us that love, but everybody is not equipped. And I
Right.
think sometimes it's hard to accept, especially when it comes from a mother. If y'all have not seen my stream with battery life, with looking at her face right now, I can't think of the author. She talks about having to cut her mom all the way off. I
Mm.
was so shocked, but not actually, not that it's unheard of, because sometimes the very people that we love the most can
Yeah.
hurt us the worst. So when she was Clara Luce, thank you, Clara Luce Graham, when she talked about how, like, even when she's trying to build it's still so much toxicity. She was like,
Yeah.
my mom mad that I got married and she's not. My mom mad that my husband loved me and she never had that. My mom mad that my kids are good and was like, always throwing dirt. Always.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I can't imagine what's going on. Again, I think what happened to
Yeah.
mom? That's where my
Right.
heart goes because I'm always looking at not only the resulting behavior, but what is going on with you to the point
Right.
where you can't have no relationship with your daughter. So this is real, guys. Even if the relationship that you want cannot exist right now, still pray for them. But
Yeah.
understand that it is still it's hard. You guys just take it a day at a time and one interaction at a time because hurt people hurt people. So
Yeah.
indirectly, you can't orchestrate the best mother. I've seen people like, gosh, I wish I had like how your mom is, or I wish I had like your dad is, and to anybody, because it can
Right.
be very difficult when you want that loving relationship, when you want that healing to take place. But it take two to tango. So you're not
Right.
in control of how they respond to the
Right.
current circumstances. You get what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
applaud you for even attempting. It may not be, the time is not up to you alone. And of course, you still have to be at peace. And again, the
Hmm.
Bible asks you to honor that person. Can you imagine trying to
Right.
honor somebody who knew that you got abused?
Still gotta honor.
It's still kind of crazy. Yeah, a lot of people would be like, "Yeah, that's why I don't roll with that Christianity stuff," and
Right.
other religions say that too. But that's in itself a deep evolution, a
Hmm.
higher level of being, where you can
Hmm.
still have empathy for, not to absolve, but empathy
Right.
for one. I don't
Right.
know. Do you want to add anything there? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm waxing philosophical.
Yeah. I love what you said. Hurt people hurt people. Those exact same words is in chapter 7. Those exact same words is in chapter 7. And I realized that I was hurting in middle school. And the reason that had me to realize that I was hurting was when I started a fight in the lunchroom. And I talk about in my book how I became such a fighter, but the best fights were the ones that I didn't start, but I participated in. And this particular fight, I sat in a lunchroom table, and one girl was across from me, the next one was next to me, and they were beefing, they were arguing. And so the girl sitting across from me, she was like, do something else to me, and come across this table, and I'm gonna hit you. Well, I kicked the girl that was sitting across from me, and she thought that it was the girl next to me that she was arguing with. So I kicked the girl, and a fight broke out. The girl that was sitting across from me ended up with a busted lip and a black and blue eye, and it was funny then, but I look at it now and I'm like, I did that because I was hurting. And I had to face that girl's mother when she came up to the school to see her daughter. And they pulled me out of the classroom to question me because I was sitting at the table. And her mother asked me, because I was laughing in her mother's face, her mother asked me, are you hurt? And I just kind of, what? She was like, are you hurt? Because only hurt people hurt people. And of course, I laughed and I went back to my seat. But for the rest of the day in school, I was not okay because that saying
Yeah,
struck so true to
yeah.
me. I only started that fight because I was hurting.
Mm, it's
So it's
real.
so true.
It's
Hurt
real.
people do hurt people.
In every sense, in relationships, in
Yeah,
families, in other interpersonal relationships, and co-workers,
yeah,
bad bosses, and those people. Oftentimes, when they are trying to impose their will or all this type of, issues when it comes to management and all that, a lot of
yeah,
times they're hurting, guys. A lot of times they're not doing this type of work, which is to not
yeah,
only acknowledge, but to work through and hopefully process it in a way that ends up in a positive outcome, not
yeah,
in a way that you're hurting someone else or you're hurting yourself. That's the thing. When we are not, which I say, coming to peace with all of the things that happen to us, it oftentimes is press and play and replay.
right.
I want to ask you before we go about your marriage, because congratulations, hey, um,
Thank you.
we are cheering for you. Do you feel like, or did you express this stuff to your husband? what had happened to you. A lot of times people say they hide it. Some people don't know until after they get married and all this stuff.
Mhm.
Was it something that you were open and transparent with when you met your husband, and how did he respond?
Yeah. So it wasn't right away. He honestly found out when the book came out. He found out when everybody else found out. I had shared a little bit with him to why, I was uncomfortable doing certain things. Um, but yeah, he found out when everyone else did.
Wow.
And so I'm grateful that he has a sensitive heart.
How long y'all been
Um,
married? When you say he found out, you were already married?
yeah, so we're going on 3 years.
Okay, yay.
And thank you. And this book has been out for a year.
So he
So
just found
that's
out.
so that's 2 years that I struggled just with myself being married and what that comes with, because the Bible says that the bed is undefiled.
Absolutely.
Yet I stand here wanting to hold back everything that he should be getting because of X, Y, and Z of what has happened to me. So it's just so important that if anybody is struggling from sexual abuse and molestation, you don't have to write a book. You don't have to write a book, but get therapy because you owe it to yourself to heal.
That's right.
And I'm starting now to speak on it more, and I'm healing from it more, and I'm able to do things more with my husband and be comfortable doing it and telling myself it's okay to do it now. This is what you're supposed to be doing.
Amen.
So it's like been traumatized for so long, been just reckless with my relationships for so long. It's like now I have to retrain my brain and tell my brain, no, it's okay now.
Yeah, I'm
And
girl, that's a word. That's a word right there. And it can be as traumatic as something that you've experienced. It can also be what people are taught in church. Can I just throw it out there? When you're talking about being with your husband, you're talking to people that may or may not have grown up in the Christian faith. I'm just speaking from
mhm,
that perspective. But oftentimes I've heard with friends, they have been taught that sex was so dirty or so forbidden
mhm,
that that same very reaction is when they get into the marriage bed, they looking like, whoa, 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 what we doing right now? And I don't
right,
mean to make light of it. And it's not a really
right,
direct comparison, but the same mindset. You
yeah,
have had, you've held this thing as being so dirty and so
yeah,
evil and, so painful, so that when
yeah,
it is time to open oneself up in a beautiful and whole way, it's like you can't. So did you
yeah,
get therapy for that?
yeah. I went through counseling. I did have some counseling, but it really took a lot of internal changes for myself. I had to tell myself, Abby, you're beautiful. Abby, yes, you're 5'1" and you weighed 105 pounds, but girl, wear that lingerie. Girl, show that booty.
Yeah.
Girl, do this. Girl, do that.
Okay, I'm laughing
Um,
off screen. I'm gonna let you see me. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. But yeah, sometimes you gotta fake it till you make it here.
No,
Absolutely.
you have
Yeah.
to, and I love that saying, "Fake it till you make it," because I just told a girlfriend that not too long ago. I said, "Fake it till you make it," and she was like, "But I'm not a faker." I said, "But it's not like being fake. Fake it
Right.
till you make it. It's
Right.
a practice."
Right.
And that's what it really means. Practice
Right.
until it becomes a habit.
Yes.
Practice until you become comfortable
Right.
with it. So
Right.
right now, yeah, I am, faking it till I'm making it, but I'm practicing. Girl,
Exactly.
I'm wearing these lingeries that I just
Hey.
feel like, girl, does it look right? I don't know. Do you like it? I don't know. So I'm like now just putting myself out there.
Yeah, Andrea,
And
you had the
one,
right word. It's a process.
it's
It's
a
not gonna happen.
process.
Healing don't happen overnight. And thank God for a patient husband. Thank God for a
Yes.
patient husband, because it's not a thing that you could just snap your fingers and it goes away. It's constantly fighting those same thoughts when it comes to, oh my gosh, this was so disgusting to me because of my past experience. But no, this is my husband now. My husband loves me. My husband cherishes me. I want to give him my best. So it's not the same context, but of course the brain don't know that. The brain is still trying to protect you. The brain is saying danger, danger. So I can understand that. That's definitely something that if you're experiencing that, ladies, like she said, you got to get help. Therapy is important so that you're not carrying those, bad or ill feelings from the childhood or whatever experience into where you are now. That's the biggest thing. We don't want, someone currently to be quote punished and that's not even the intent, but not to get the full you, the beauty of the fullness of you. Because of all that. You have given us so many words. Y'all drop y'all last comments. I'm so grateful that this wonderful author of 2 books has come to hopefully enlighten and maybe inspire, restore, and encourage all of you in the chat. I've seen so many wonderful comments. They've been like, yes, I get it. I know. I don't think one of y'all want to come up. I was trying to get somebody to come up, but I know, again, the topic alone, it would probably kind of freak me out too. So I'm not going to say thank you for joining us, Broke Farmer. Thank you. You said blind guy, his wife sent him over here. So guys, I will have the links to her book. I will have the links from her. You can also send me your Instagram and stuff so people can find you. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. She told me she'll be actually in the neighborhood soon enough. So looking forward to having that. And again, everybody who's here, I want y'all to support this woman. She has a wonderful, wonderful ministry by just doing what God told her to do. Look at that. I feel you on that. Sometimes I hear you. Bravo with Sheila. Ladies, let's chat. Yes, it's the battle of the mind. Bravo to you. That I couldn't end on a better note. I want to thank y'all, everybody in the chat. Show some love one more time. I want to thank this dynamic teacher, mentor, prophetess. I'm gonna put all of that on you. Woman of God, first lady, all that good stuff, for being here and being so open and transparent. I know this conversation, which is the intent, will help people to become better and to hopefully recognize what's going on inside of them so that they can help address it in a healthy way. All right. Love y'all in the chat. Drop your final comments. I thank you once again to Miss Abigail Couzens. Let me put your name up there one more time so they can find you on social media. I'm sure
I dropped
her name is
Instagram.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I'll put her Instagram. If you want to bless her one more time, let me just I was like, you know what? Let's put her cash up there. If you want to bless her, if you want to support the show as well, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe. If you're able to share, please share. And you guys ask for my cash app as well. Appreciate my super chatters. Hopefully I'll be monetized pretty soon so I can get some real super chats. And figure out how to do that. Okay. God bless you. Thank you so much to Miss Abigail Couzens. Thank you so much for coming on, my dear. All right. We'll see y'all real soon. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. I have a wonderful show tomorrow at 4. All right. Push Past the Pain is tomorrow's show with Rachelle Sylvain Spence. So be here or be square. I appreciate you. Much love to you, my sister. Take care.